Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to shortly speak in Parliament. He will reply to the motion of thanks on the President's address. US top court rules that the country's presidents have immunity from prosecution for official acts. Biden says it sets a dangerous precedent. Trump asks for hush money conviction to be overturned. Israel strikes Southern Gaza after ordering evacuations. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his military is close to eliminating the Hamas. And Hurricane Beryl batters St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the Caribbean. The country's Prime Minister says 90% of houses either damaged or destroyed. The discussion on the motion of thanks to the President's address is continuing in both houses of India's Parliament. Several leaders, both from the ruling and the opposition parties, are putting forth their point. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will reply to the motion of thanks in the Lok Sabha, the lower house of Parliament, later on Tuesday. Opposition leader Rahul Gandhi took part in the debate on Monday. It was his maiden speech as the leader of opposition in the newly constituted House. With regards to the speech, Rahul Gandhi, the Speaker Om Birla has expunged certain parts of his speech. Participating in the debate on the motion of thanks on the President's address on Tuesday, Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav voiced his support for a caste census. He said his party will not accept the Agnipath scheme for recruitment of soldiers below the rank of commissioned officers for a 4-year period.
अध्यक्ष महोदय, राष्ट्रपति जी के अभिभाषण में अग्निवीर को लेकर के जो चिंता विपक्ष की थी और देश के नौजवानों की थी, वो चिंता वैसी की वैसी बनी है। अध्यक्ष महोदय, किसी भी देश की सबसे बड़ी प्राथमिकता अगर कोई है तो वो देश की सीमाओं की सुरक्षा है। अग्निवीर जैसी व्यवस्था से कभी संभव नहीं है। अध्यक्ष महोदय, हम अग्निवीर व्यवस्था को कभी स्वीकार नहीं कर सकते हैं।
The Rajya Sabha, or the upper house of Parliament, also took up for discussion the motion of thanks on the President's address. 16 hours were kept for the discussion in the Lok Sabha and 21 hours in the Rajya Sabha. Prime Minister Modi has asked lawmakers from the ruling alliance to follow parliamentary rules, uphold the principles of parliamentary democracy and exhibit good conduct. The Prime Minister made the remarks in his address to the National Democratic Alliance lawmakers in New Delhi on Tuesday. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju told reporters after the meeting that Prime Minister Modi wanted lawmakers to put the country before self and develop an expertise on certain issues.
के साथियों के साथ सारे एमपीज़ को शेयर किया है और जो गाइड किया है, हम लोगों को एक मंत्र दिए हैं, ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। आज सबसे पहले तो प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा कि हर एक एमपी सदन में देश सेवा के लिए आए हैं। बाकी कोई भी पार्टी का हो, किसी भी दल का हो, लेकिन देश सेवा ये प्रथम हमारा दायित्व है और हर एक एनडीए का एमपी को देश को सबसे ऊपर रख करके काम करना है, ये आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने आग्रह किया है।
Earlier, the alliance felicitated Mr. Modi on becoming the Prime Minister for a third consecutive time. Right, joining me is my colleague Debyendu Mondal. Debyendu, tell us more about the proceedings in Parliament. How's the debate coming along?
Well, Ramesh, currently as we speak, the debate in both the Houses of Parliament are underway with regards to the motion of thanks on the presidential inaugural address. As we have been reporting since morning that all the political parties have been allotted the specific time with regards to their participation in the motion of thanks debate. Each party gets time according to their representative in both the Houses of Parliament. So in proportion to that, they get their time. So they have been, taking part in the debate since morning. And as we know, 16 hours have been allotted in the Lok Sabha, which will conclude with the reply by the Prime Minister this evening. So of course, all eyes will of course be on the speech of the Prime Minister this evening on the floor of the House. He is expected to give a point-by-point rebuttal to all the allegations made by the leader of opposition of the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi. So yesterday even Prime Minister said that he takes the leader of opposition seriously, and which also certainly gives a sense of the fact that the Prime Minister will give a point-by-point rebuttal to all the allegations that have been put forth by the leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi. Yesterday also, when Rahul Gandhi was speaking, we saw that several ministers, including Home Minister, Defence Minister, as well as Agriculture Minister, stood up and corrected Rahul Gandhi on several points that he was trying to make with regards to the Agniveer scheme, or for that matter, with regards to the new criminal laws that have been brought into force since yesterday, and also on the farmers issue. So of course, all these issues will touch chords within the Prime Minister's speech this evening. So of course, we'll wait and watch as to what is laid in front of the floor of the House by the Prime Minister. Also, it is expected that the Prime Minister will lay out the vision of his government, which has come to power for the third time. He will be talking about what his government entails to do over the next 5 years. Of course, also on the other hand, the debate is also underway in the upper house of Parliament, which is the Rajya Sabha, where similarly all the political parties that have their representation in the Rajya Sabha are given adequate time by the chairman to speak in favor of the motion or against the motions. Of course, that debate is also underway in the upper house of the Parliament. Ramesh.
Debyendu, thank you for now. We'll keep coming back to you for more as we go along. Appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on, the US top court delivered a landmark decision on Monday, ruling that the country's former president, Donald Trump, cannot be held criminally liable for actions that were within his constitutional powers as president. Now, this establishes a precedent for presidential immunity from prosecution. The court ruled 6-3 that Trump has immunity from prosecution for actions taken in his official capacity, but not for private actions. Trump is accused of attempting to defraud the US by obstructing the electoral vote process using fraudulent means, which he claims were official acts protected by his presidency. And DD India's Benji Haya sent us this report from Washington, D.C.
This is a landmark ruling from the Supreme Court coming at a politically fraught time in America. The court holds that a former president, in this case Donald Trump, but this rule would apply to all, has absolute immunity for core constitutional powers and a presumption of immunity for official acts, but no immunity for unofficial acts. What does this mean exactly? Well, it'll now be down to lower courts to actually decide, but justices have weighed in on the matter, saying that some of the acts that Donald Trump took as part of his alleged attempts to overturn the election outcome of 2020, those would fall under official acts. His inciting of his supporters to march down to the heart of American democracy, which then descended into that deadly riot we saw on January 6, 2021. Justice is also implying those come under official acts too, and therefore under this ruling, Donald Trump would be immune from prosecution. The main outcome from what we've seen on Monday is that the real distinction, the decision between official and unofficial, without getting too much into the weeds, that now goes down to lower courts. And that decision will take some time. In effect, pushing a potential trial, another criminal trial for the former president, beyond the November 5th date that Americans would go to the polls. That has been met with elation and relief, unsurprisingly, from Donald Trump, who calls this a big win for the Constitution and for democracy. There is dismay, however, from some of the liberal justices on the bench who say that this makes a mockery of the principle that no man is above the law. They fear that it could set a precedent in the future, that a president could in effect be immune from ordering the assassination of their political rival. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's campaign claimed this changes nothing, that Donald Trump's actions in the lead up to and on January 6th, 2021, none of that has changed, and they insist that Joe Biden's re-election campaign will continue to highlight that Donald Trump is willing to do anything to gain and to hold on to power for himself, and that the American people have already rejected the former president. Biden's campaign claims they will do so again, but polls are not looking in his favour. We're of course coming off the back of a very troubling debate performance from Joe Biden, and this ruling will reinforce Donald Trump's narrative that this is a witch hunt, according to him, against him and his political allies. Meanwhile, the special counsel, the main prosecutor overseeing this case for the Department of Justice, Jack Smith, he so far has declined to comment. Benji Haya in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has criticized the top court's ruling, calling it a dangerous precedent that did a disservice to the American people.
Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. With today's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed. For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States. The only limits will be self-imposed by the president alone.
And let me now get you some news from Africa. In Kenya's capital, Nairobi, riot police were deployed on Tuesday morning as protesters, mainly young activists, planned further demonstrations following violent clashes last week. Protesters have refused to engage in talks with President William Ruto, despite his withdrawal of proposed tax increases. The recent deaths of at least 39 people, as reported by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, have intensified demands for Ruto's resignation. Still to come on DD India News Hour. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak urges voters to stick with his Conservative Party, saying that a Labour victory would be bad for the country and its democracy. In France, rival parties seek to build an anti-far-right front ahead of the runoff vote on the 7th of July. And Israel's Prime Minister says he is nearing his goal of taking out the military capabilities of Hamas.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Newly elected lawmakers from the left-wing and centrist parties in France remained hopeful of defeating the far right in the second round of polls on the 7th of July. Lawmakers from the left-wing New Popular Front coalition and President Emmanuel Macron's centrist alliance visited the country's parliament in Paris a day after the historic victory of Marine Le Pen's far-right national rally in the first round of election. Macron's party came third, trailing behind both the left wing and the far right.
For now, it's the moment where we welcome and we enter the building with the 32 lawmakers of the New Popular Front who were elected in the first round. And now, our task all this week will be solely focused on one goal and one goal only, that of having a majority for the New Popular Front.
Un chapitre dans l'histoire du
I have been for 2 years with only the interest of millions of French people who faced with issues such as purchasing power, security, access to healthcare, education, and want concrete answers. These concrete answers will never be provided by the national rally which since Sunday evening has been at the gates of power.
And joining me from Paris is my colleague Ross Cullen. Ross, arithmetically speaking, can a united front block the path to government of Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party?
Yes, technically the opposition could get 280 seats. Marine Le Pen's National Rally could also get 280 seats. That would take them to 560, and the total number of MPs in France's lower house is 577. Now, it's unlikely that we would see such a mathematical breakdown of how the parties end up eventually after the decisive second round in terms of their number of MPs. But it is possible at the moment. That's why Marine Le Pen has called on all her campaigners, her canvassers, her candidates to keep up the pressure and to try to ensure that they can win a majority. She has reiterated again today that the National Rally Party leader, Jordan Bardella, will not take up the post of Prime Minister unless her party has won a majority. They know that it would be very tough for him to be Prime Minister with a relative majority, not with a full majority. Policies could be blocked, he would be vulnerable to no confidence votes, and there will be a lot of pressure on him and the party. So she has called on her campaigners to make sure they can get over the line and win an absolute majority.
Ross, how have markets reacted to the election result?
Well, in fact, there was a bit of a bullish reaction overall because what has come into play is the hung parliament option. Now, there were some worries that markets could react with shock and there could potentially be a bear response with share prices dropping if it looked as though the National Rally far-right populist party were on course for a majority, but polls project that they are on course for the greatest number of seats, but falling short of a majority. So we did see some share prices rise on Monday on the reaction of the results on Sunday from the first round of the election. Remember, it's a two-round process. That decisive second round is Sunday the 7th of July, when we will know that evening, late into the evening, how the French Parliament is going to look, the makeup of the National Assembly in terms of the National Rally, how far President Macron's party has truly fallen. Will the left-wing coalition, the New Popular Front, be able to break through and make gains and block the far right from accessing power? So there's a lot still to play for. We also are looking at the role the Republicans could play. They are a much smaller party than they once were. The party of Jacques Chirac, the party of Nicolas Sarkozy, providing many of the presidents, they trace their roots back to Charles de Gaulle even in the 1950s. However, they have become a shadow of their former selves, the Republicans. But if they get a sufficient number of MPs, and if the far right falls short of a majority, there is some talk that there could be confidence and supply arrangements whereby the Republicans, who are centre-right moderate conservatives, could offer their votes on a policy-by-policy basis to the far right if they can find some common ground on that particular piece of proposed legislation. So there's also new focus coming into play this week on the role that the Republicans might play next week after the results are confirmed.
Very interesting indeed. As they say, watch this space. Ross, we leave it there. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ross Cullen there reporting from Paris. And staying in Europe, political leaders have been reaching out to voters as the UK prepares to hold a parliamentary election on the 4th of July. Just short of conceding defeat, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak urged voters on the political right to stick with his Conservative Party, saying that a Labour victory would be bad for the country and its democracy. But opinion polls have consistently given the Keir Starmer-led Labour an edge over the Conservatives. Meanwhile, UK Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt is fighting for political survival in the affluent Godalming constituency, where a growing number of voters say that they no longer back his Conservative Party. According to some opinion polls, Hunt is slated to lose the election. Such a development will indicate a collapse in Conservative support in the constituencies around London that had been solid for more than a century.
One can accept that Jeremy Hunt at a local level has done quite a lot of good, but unfortunately all the good that he's done at a local level is really destroyed by his support for a toxic government, and it's what matters at a national level at the moment that matters.
It's quite different this year because I don't want to waste my vote, and I see that if I vote certain parties, that vote will just be thrown away. It's not going to go anywhere. So I find that to vote something that I would choose to vote Liberal, because I don't think that will be wasted.
And Stuart Smith joins us from London for more. Stuart, the ruling Conservative Party is having to contend not only with the opposition Labour Party but Nigel Farage's right-wing Reform UK too. Does it make Rishi Sunak's job that much more difficult?
It really does. It was always going to be a tough fight for the Conservative Party after 14 years of government and a perception of instability with the number of prime ministers that the country has gone through in that time. But then when the Reform Party, led by big name Nigel Farage, who effectively led the Brexit campaign and succeeded, when his party said it was going to run as well, that was another blow to the Conservative Party. Take the latest poll statistics, for example. Labour on 40%, well ahead of the Conservatives on 20%, but the right-wing Reform Party on 16%. That's 16% of voters who may otherwise have chosen to vote for the right-of-centre Conservative Party. And so with that, a 1-2 hit for the Conservatives. Left-wing voters largely going Labour, right-wing voters split between the Conservatives and the Reform Party. And what's interesting here is that the Reform Party may not pick up even a single seat, but due to the UK's first-past-the-post voting system, that would still be a massive blow to the Conservatives, with those 16% of voters who choose to vote Reform making their political point clear, but that not necessarily translating into seats.
Also, Stuart, how have the British Indians traditionally voted? Is the Labour making a concerted bid to woo them? In other words, is Keir Starmer succeeding where Jeremy Corbyn failed?
Well, about 2.5% of the British population is made up of Indian diaspora, so it is an important part of the vote, though largely concentrated in particular constituencies. And we see that where there is a large element of Indian diaspora, Sikhs and Hindus, that is an important part of the election campaign. One example is Southall in London, where it's very important for politicians and candidates looking to become MPs to secure an element of that vote. In Southall, for example, there was a mini row over the fact that the Labour Party didn't choose an Indian candidate or a candidate with an Indian background to run, although the candidate has, as expected, been making the effort to reach out to various Indian diaspora groups. As to foreign policy more largely, Indian diaspora has tended to vote for the Conservative Party, but much like the rest of the country, there are the same concerns about the record of the Conservative Party in government, a feeling that they haven't kept the promises they had made to improve the economy, to bring back economic stability, or to fix the National Health Service.
Stuart, thank you very much. Stuart Smith reporting from London. Meanwhile, Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk met in Warsaw as the two nations seek to reinforce cooperation in the face of security challenges and political turbulence in Europe. Relations between the countries have warmed since Tusk's pro-European coalition came to power in December, replacing a government hostile to Germany. With tensions running high on the border with Belarus and Russian missile strikes on Ukraine regularly leading to NATO aircraft being scrambled in Poland, security concerns will be high on the agenda during the visit. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban has arrived in Ukraine's capital Kiev for talks with President Volodymyr Zelensky. The visit by Orban, an outspoken critic of Western military aid to Ukraine, comes a day after Hungary assumed the rotating presidency of the European Union Council. Hungarian officials have said that the most important topic of discussion between the two leaders would be the chance to create peace. In the latest on the Ukraine-Russia conflict, Moscow has claimed to destroy 5 Ukrainian fighter jets and damage 2 airfields in Ukraine's Poltava region. Kiev said that there had been a strike at the airfield and reported that a Russian drone was flying above the airfield to help conduct the raid. Moscow is targeting Ukrainian airfields as Kiev prepares to receive the first US-designed F-16 fighter jets. Meanwhile, Russia claimed that it occupied more advantageous positions in multiple directions and controlled several settlements in the past 24 hours, while Ukraine said on the same day that it had engaged in more than 100 combats with Russian forces at the front. DD India's Dasha Chernyshova has more from Moscow.
Moscow says its forces have taken control over Novopokrovsk in the Donetsk People's Republic, a village located in 3 kilometers away from a Ukrainian logistical hub. The development is set to allow the Russian forces to further move the front line away from the city of Donetsk. On the Kharkiv direction, Russia now says it has control over Stepovaya Novoselovka. This improves Russia's tactical positions on this part of the front line. In the meantime, officials in Russian regions bordering Ukraine reported power cuts and water supply issues after Ukrainian drone attacks on Monday. Moscow also insists that its specialists are now studying the guidance and flight correction systems of the American ATACMS missiles after obtaining the elements. On Monday, the Kremlin voiced concerns over high concentration of Ukrainian troops on the border with Belarus. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Moscow sees it as a shared problem due to its allied relations with Minsk. He said that if necessary, this issue will be discussed at the highest level between the presidents. He also reminded that Russia remains open to any dialogue formats with Ukraine. Dasha Chernyshova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
To West Asia now, where Israel's military has asked residents of the eastern part of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza to evacuate after rockets were fired towards Israel. It comes after 20 rockets were launched in the heaviest such attack in months. A number of them were intercepted, but some landed in open areas with no injuries reported. Elsewhere, fierce fighting continued for a 5th day in Shijaya in the north part of Gaza and also in southern Rafah. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Monday that the country was nearing its goal of taking out the military capabilities of Hamas. He said the Israeli military's less intense operations would continue, though.
We are advancing to the end of the phase of eliminating the terrorist army of Hamas, and there will be a continuation to strike its remnants.
And now take a look at what else is making news around the world. South Korea's capital Seoul mourned the death of people in a car crash. The accident on Tuesday killed 9 people and injured 6. The cause is under investigation. The government of New Zealand plans to introduce a bill that will mandate digital technology platforms to pay local media companies for news content. Canada had introduced a similar bill in 2023. A court in Cambodia has sentenced 10 environmental activists to 8 years in prison on charges that include plotting against the government and insulting the king. and still to come on DD India News Hour. Is climate change to blame for extreme weather events such as a devastating hurricane that's battering the Caribbean? An expert weighs in. India's External Affairs Minister to lead a delegation to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Kazakhstan. And an annual pilgrimage to the Hindu shrine of Amarnath in India's Jammu and Kashmir sees a rush of devotees. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to shortly speak in Parliament. He will reply to the motion of thanks on the President's address. US top court rules that the country's presidents have immunity from prosecution for official acts. Biden says it sets a dangerous precedent. Trump asks for hush money conviction to be overturned. And Israel strikes Southern Gaza after ordering evacuations. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his military is close to eliminating Hamas. India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar will lead an Indian delegation to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Kazakhstan. The 24th meeting of the SCO Council of Heads of State will be held on Thursday in Astana. Leaders are expected to review the organization's activities over the past 2 decades and discuss the state and prospects of multilateral cooperation. Topical issues of regional and international importance are expected to be discussed as well. India, as the SCO chair in 2023, had hosted the organization's summit in July in virtual format. Meanwhile, China's President Xi Jinping is in Astana for the SCO summit. It is Xi's 5th visit to Kazakhstan, where he will meet with President Tokayev to discuss their bilateral relationship, collaborative efforts in key sectors, and regional and global issues. Moving on, an annual pilgrimage to the Hindu shrine of Amarnath in Jammu and Kashmir is witnessing a rush of devotees. Another batch of pilgrims departed from the Panth Chowk Srinagar base camp on Tuesday. More than 23,000 pilgrims had on Monday worshipped at the holy cave. It took the number of pilgrims past the 51,000 mark in just 3 days. Adequate arrangements with regard to security, sanitation and medical facilities have been made to make the pilgrimage a comfortable experience. This year, the Rural Sanitation Department is using a mascot of a Hindu god Ganesha for distributing biodegradable bags to pilgrims. All right, now take a look at what else is making news in India. Police in the northern Indian city of Amritsar arrested a person for smuggling drugs from a neighboring country. 5 kilograms of heroin were recovered from the Khemkaran area of Taran district. The drugs had been smuggled via drones. An investigation is underway. 2 new cases of the Zika virus were reported at Pune in the Indian state of Maharashtra. A total of 6 infected cases, including 2 pregnant women, have been reported till now. Officials are making efforts to control its outbreak and prevent more such infections. An Indian Air Force helicopter rescued 13 people stranded on a deserted island on the Brahmaputra River in the northeastern state of Assam. The survivors were given emergency first aid by the rescue team. Now, from flash floods to wildfires, the world is experiencing an extreme weather events which are on the rise. Experts and scientists alike are of the view that climate change is affecting weather patterns worldwide, leading to diverse and unexpected conditions, as the next report tells you.
An unusually fierce and fearful start to the 2024's Atlantic hurricane season. Hurricane Beryl strengthened on Monday into a potentially catastrophic Category 5 storm as it moved across the eastern Caribbean, putting Jamaica near its path after downing power lines and flooding streets elsewhere. Beryl has left a trail of destruction in its wake in St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Union Island has been devastated. The reports that I have received indicate that 90% of the houses have been severely damaged or destroyed. Their roofs, structures. The Union Island Airport's roof is gone. It's no more.
The impact in its path has prompted other nations to issue warnings and prepare for the worst. Jamaica issued a hurricane warning, while tropical storm warnings were in effect for parts of the southern coasts of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Scientists believe climate change probably contributed to the rapid pace of its formation. And that is not all. North America is bracing with two storms at the same time. While at coast of southern Mexico, Tropical Storm Chris caused minor damage after making landfall in southern Veracruz state on Sunday. Torrential rains are causing widespread destruction in China also. Milwa River is now flowing above the danger mark, having reached the highest water level recorded since 1954. In India too, the monsoon, while bringing relief from intense heat, has wreaked mayhem in many states. Normal life has been disrupted in Gujarat, Jharkhand and northeastern states. Brahmaputra continues to flow above danger level following widespread rains in Assam. Indian Meteorological Department has issued orange warning for Delhi, Punjab, Himachal, Haryana, West Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. The alert corresponds to a prediction of very heavy rainfall between 115 to 205 millimeters in 24 hours. Bureau Report, DD India.
Dr. Shivanand Rai joins us from New Delhi. Dr. Pai, I beg your pardon, is an additional Director General at the India Meteorological Department. Dr. Pai, welcome to DD India News Hour. I have 4 or 5 fundamental questions to ask you for the benefit of viewers joining us from around the world. Now, first up, heat waves, wildfires and unusually heavy rains have impacted the world, India included. And now a hurricane is battering the Caribbean. Is climate change to blame for these extreme weather events?
See, in fact, you are correct actually. Climate is changing and the temperature has been increasing. Last year was the warmest ever year, and that is mainly because of the El Nino conditions prevailed across the globe, and people are believing that this year could be also warmer than last year.
Right.
After saying that, you are correct that there are, because of climate change, there has been increase in the cyclonic storms, its frequency, the intensity, and also heat waves are increasing. At the same time, heavy rainfalls are increasing. But before climate change also, there has been this extreme event. The only thing is that at present, the intensity and frequency of these events are increasing. So that extent, we can say that if the increase is attributed to climate change, but these extreme events are part and parcel of the climate and the weather across the globe.
Right. Dr. Pai, what should governments do to combat such phenomena? Does an early warning system help? Tell us a bit more, if you will, about your organization and how what it's doing in this regard.
See, there are 2 things. One is the mitigation. Mitigation means reducing the impact of climate change by controlling the emission of the greenhouse effect. Thereby, you try to decrease the intensity of the climate change. In spite of all the effort to decrease the greenhouse effect, even if you do think that this today, now we stopped all the emissions of the greenhouse gases, still the already existing greenhouse gases can impact the climate next several decades. So therefore you have to adapt to the you have to adapt to these conditions which are continuously changing because of the climate change. And to that extent, the early warning system is a type of adaptation process by which you get an idea about what is likely to happen in a particular region, and thereby you can take precautionary measures and reduce the risk due to this kind of extreme events. So the early warning is a very important aspect of the adaptation to the climate change.
Right. Dr. Pai, I have a couple of questions to ask from you from an Indian perspective. How vulnerable do you think is India to climate change?
So we have got large geography with a large coastal line. At the same time, interior part there are desert type of deserts are there.
Right.
Interior land, big land regions are there.
And a large coastline as well.
Yes, coastal lines we have got. We are impacted by large monsoon type of weather provides us 70 to 75% of the rainfall, annual rainfall. So any changes due to the climate on the monsoon and the rainfall events, extreme rainfall event, that will have an impact. Any delay in the monsoon that can cause heat waves or a temperature increase. One of the things that we have observed associated with the monsoon climate change is that extreme events are increasing. At the same time, the gap between the extreme events are increasing, which means the dry periods are increasing. That will have impact on not only the agriculture, our socio-economy also, and also the cyclones. We are also prone to cyclones during both pre-monsoon as well as the post-monsoon. Anything related to climate change, this cyclonic system, whether it is a storm surge or wind, heavy rainfall, all this can cause actually coastal impact. So in that way, also not only that sea levels are increasing, that also will have impact on the coastal area. So overall, we have been facing all kinds of extreme events. So therefore, the early warning system for each of these type of extreme events are very important to adapt to this kind of extreme events.
Indeed. And finally, Dr. Pai, what can you tell us about India's track record insofar as climate policies is concerned?
See, we have been putting efforts to actually, mitigation that way by reducing the greenhouse gases. Actually, we are also committed to improve, all the sources like fossil fuels actually to decrease that. We have been using the renewable energy, wind energy, solar. So the production of those energies are actually increasing. So India is playing very important role in mitigation of the climate change, and at the same time we are also working with the other global agencies in improving the early warning system for all kind of extreme event, not only within the country, for South Asia, and also globally to improve the early warning system.
Right. Dr. Shivanand Pai, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Now, dozens of fires broke out across Greece, including 2 islands near the capital Athens during the weekend. As wildfires continued blazing on the island of Kos, locals as well as tourists were evacuated from the area. Firefighting teams along with helicopters brought the blaze under control on Tuesday and kept working to stop it from flaring again. And still to come on DD India News Hour. The US dollar surges to a nearly 38-year high against the Japanese yen. India's unified payments interface clocks 13.9 billion transactions in June, registers a 49% year-on-year increase. And in cricket, a young Indian squad leaves for a T20 series against Zimbabwe.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. To business news now. The US dollar surged to a nearly 38-year high against the Japanese yen on Tuesday, driven by rising treasury yields and speculation about a potential second Donald Trump presidency. This boosted Japan's stock market, with the Nikkei index climbing above 40,000 for the first time in 3 months. Meanwhile, China's yuan fell to a fresh 7-month low as the central bank's guidance suggested that authorities are willing to allow the currency to depreciate further. India's stock market indices, the Sensex and Nifty, reached new all-time highs in early trading on Tuesday, driven by a global market rally and strong demand for IT stocks. The Sensex surged 379 points to a record 79,855, while the Nifty climbed 94 points to 24,236. However, by afternoon, both indices had retreated slightly, with the Nifty down 0.13% and the Sensex down 0.03%. India's Unified Payments Interface, or UPI, saw a significant surge in transactions in June, with a 49% year-over-year increase to 13.9 billion transactions. The National Payments Corporation of India data said that the total value of transactions rose by 36% to 20.1 trillion rupees, with an average daily transaction count of 463 million. Now, this builds on the momentum from May, which saw a 37% year-on-year increase in UPI transactions. And now to all the news from the world of sport with Siddharth Bharadwaj. Siddharth, take it away.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. And a lot is happening in the world of sport. Let's begin with cricket. And the Indian squad for the T20I series against Zimbabwe departed from India on early Tuesday morning. The first match of the 5-game series will be played on July 6 at the Harare Sports Club. Meanwhile, the last T20I will be played on July 14 at the same venue, which will host all the 5 games. The Board of Control for Cricket in India shared pictures of players leaving for Zimbabwe, which included Abhishek Sharma, Mukesh Kumar, Ruturaj Gaikwad, Avesh Khan, Riyan Parag, among others. Also, the head coach for India during this tour would be former cricketer and the National Cricket Academy chief, VVS Lakshman. On to football now, where goalkeeper Diogo Costa saved all 3 penalties as Portugal won 3-0 in a shootout against a brave Slovenia in a dramatic Euro 2024 last 16 clash on Monday. Slovenia held Portugal to a 0-0 draw after Cristiano Ronaldo's extra-time miss from the spot. Diogo Costa was the man of the moment in the shootout as Slovenia choked right when it matters. Portugal will now go to the quarter-final to face France on Friday night. Meanwhile, substitute Randall Kolo Muani scored with a deflected shot 5 minutes from time to give France a nervy but deserved 1-0 round of 16 win over a disappointing Belgium. France's poor finishing continued with William Saliba and Mbappe both blazing before Kolo Muani struck late on to win it. And the Singapore Chess Federation has won the bid to host the FIDE World Championship Match 2024. The match will feature the defending champion Ding Liren from China and challenger Gukesh D from India. The Singapore Chess Federation will host the match between November 20th and December 15, 2024. FIDE received 3 applications for hosting the World Championship match, namely India's New Delhi, Chennai being another option, and Singapore. After reviewing the bids and inspecting all potential host cities for their venues, amenities, event programs and opportunities, the country was chosen. And Wimbledon favourite Aryna Sabalenka pulled out shortly before her opening match on Monday due to a shoulder injury. The two-time Australian Open champion was seeded 3rd at the All-England Club and was supposed to play Emina Bektas of United States in the first round on day 1 at the grass court Grand Slam tournament. However, the Belarusian was replaced in the draw by lucky loser Erika Andreeva. Sabalenka, who suffered a lower back injury this year and struggled with illness at the French Open, sustained the injury during last month's Berlin Open. All right, and that's it in the world of sports. Back to you, Ramesh.
Thank you, Siddharth. Appreciate it. And before we close, an old train coach revived into a restaurant called Dadar Darbar, yet another restaurant on wheels of the Indian Railways. The Mumbai headquartered Central Railway added one more such restaurant at the Dadar station. Here's a report.
Dadar in Mumbai has got another unique experience of dining, and we are talking about trains and its coach. Yes, we are talking about Dadar Darbar, and if you see, this is a train coach. It was a discarded train coach and it is recycled into a hotel, into a restaurant.
The Mumbai Division Central Railway has launched yet another edition of Restaurant on Wheels at Dadar. The new landmark is named Dadar Darbar and is situated at Dadar Station Garden area. The earlier discarded rail coach has been transformed into a restaurant that can accommodate up to 72 diners inside the coach.
We have an express menu so that if someone wants to catch a train, we have express menu so that they can get their food in 5 minutes. And we have a multi-cuisine menu.
It is operated by a private firm, Unique Enterprises, and offers a convenient and accessible location for diners. Dadar Darbar was launched on May 30 of this year, and since then, the restaurant has garnered significant attention. The restaurant on wheels is on the lines of reduce, reuse and recycle.
The basic idea is to provide a unique experience of simultaneously the rail travel as well as the journey and the exclusive cuisine which we offer over here.
Diners are full of praise for the quality of food and the unparalleled experience.
आइडिया इनका बहुत अच्छा लगा और यहाँ के खाने के बारे में बोलेंगे तो फिर वो भी बहुत अच्छा है।
जो हम बोगी में बैठे हैं ऐसा लगता नहीं कि बोगी में हम बैठे हैं, ऐसे लगता है कोई राज दरबार में बैठे हैं। सर्विस भी बहुत अच्छी है और खाने में इधर मजा आ गया।
More such restaurants will be coming up in the various locations in Maharashtra. This is part of the railway's passenger-friendly initiatives at popular locations having high footfall.
All the coach that you're seeing is transformed with beautiful wallpapers, with beautiful convenient seatings and everything, and there's a lot of people who are enjoying it. And likewise, this is one place where people who have to wait for longer hours for their train journey to begin or for their train journey where it's a break, they can come and enjoy over here. With camera person Kapil Maske, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Up. You can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download it. And let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Are we looking forward?